So welcome to today's edition of Route 664, The Road to Human Kindness. And this program is about financial planning, and financial planning involves the colloquial word bread. We can toy around with that a little bit when we get into this conversation with my next guest, Alan Levitz. Alan is a bread consultant, a bread advisor, and works for New York bakeries, right?
Yes.
And tell me, we do financial planning, and bread is, people use the term bread for money, but in your case, it's really the bread. You actually are a bread advisor. So tell me what a bread advisor does.
Well, first of all, let me tell you that the business has been very crummy, but if you don't loaf, you can make dough.
Okay, I like that. So the crummy business of bread advising starts with what? What do you do first when you're a bread advisor?
Well, what happens is a restaurant is looking for somebody to supply them with their bread needs. So what happens is at that particular point, they either contact us or the easiest analogy would be, I go to a restaurant and I'm sitting in the restaurant and they bring out the bread, because the first thing that you eat when you go into a restaurant is the bread.
Right. That's what they put down with the butter, and they because people are ravenous when they get there. Yeah.
Right. So that's the thing that determines the quality of your meal. So what happens? Yes. So what happens is I usually take my card, I go into the kitchen, go over to the chef, hand him my card, and say to him, I'd like to make a presentation of what we suggest that you would use as your bread. Or sometimes what happens is the quality of the bread that they are using would not meet a standard, okay, of a good bread consultant.
So that's an interesting. The whole concept that people who go to restaurants, whether they're high end or low end restaurants, the first thing they do is they usually provide you with a basket of bread or some sort of appetizer or something to slake your appetite in a way.
But before they bring out the appetizer, the first thing they put on the table is bread.
Yeah, in the higher quality restaurants.
Any restaurant. Other than if you're at a deli and you're going to order a sandwich. But if you take like Moe's, for instance, all right, when you sit down for dinner there, the first thing they bring you out is a basket of bread.
Right, and I remember even Moe's is a deli, and so is so was Rascal House. Rascal House was.
Rascal House didn't give you bread. Rascal House had their own, the one on Collins Avenue had their own ovens, and they would bake their own Danish and give you Danish rather than and tiny little muffins that they would make themselves. The best analogy that I can give you, you remember when you went to Joe's Stone Crab?
Sure.
The first thing they would put on the table would be a basket of bread. In that basket of bread, there was a dark bread with raisins in it.
Yes.
So that was how New York bakers first got started.
No kidding.
That bread, all the bread that was served at Joe's came from New York bakers. That bread was as famous as the stone crabs. People would come in and they would order extra, give me another basket of bread, give me another basket of bread. So that was, something where, a New York baker.
Let me ask you, who advised them to do that, Joe? Is that you?
No, that was before my time.
Yeah.
Okay. And the person who owned the bakery at that time was Zimmerman. And she had a little bakery on Washington Avenue. And what happened was that little bakery was producing bread, for the top of the line restaurants. They make the finest kosher rye bread or kosher style rye bread.
They said did they supply the famous restaurant?
They supplied the famous restaurant,
right, on Washington,
with the right, and out of Washington. When they moved to the big plant, they were also known as Butterflake Bakery.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah. And Butterflake Bakery supplied like 3 or 4 states. So I don't know if the funny story is that the owner, okay, hired the owner of Butterflake and hired him as her president of distribution and manufacturing of the bakery.
Right.
And they were doing so well, it was more economical for her to marry him than to keep him as the president.
Yeah, she moved in with the chief. Yeah, it's
right. Or the chief moved in with her.
That's really. So we're going down memory lane a little bit with some of these restaurants, but today there are. Tell me a little bit about some of the restaurants that you're working with today.
Well,
you're locally. You're in South Florida. I think the folks need to know that, right? You're here in
Aventura.
Aventura. So we met you actually at the Aventura Sunny Isles Beach Chamber of Commerce meeting,
right?
And was very intrigued by what you do. I mean, the profession is very. I don't know many other bread advisors. In fact, you're the first one that I ever met, and the only one that I've ever met. So, tell me what other restaurants you're working with now locally
everything in Aventura. Okay, and just about everything in Sunny Isle, and Miami Beach. Like the Mandolin, Prime 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Those are usually the restaurants that require something a little out of the ordinary.
Right.
That's what that's where we come in to supply them.
So that raisin pumpernickel bread, which is what you were talking to about Joe's, that's still in Joe's, and that's kind of like
other than they no longer use New York bakers, and that's why when people go there, they say, "Well, this isn't the bread that I used to get. This isn't the bread that I used to get," because it became a financial thing because they require that you deliver the bread 3 times a day, and the bread had to stand up in the box rather than lay flat. Right. So, it became more of a customized job, and it became, something. It's like anything else. If you want something like really, different, and you want an extra delivery, right. I mean, that eats up into your cash profit.
Right.
So the thing is, they found somebody, that would do it for less, not the same quality, we'll do it for less. And that's what happened. But you take somebody like the Palm, okay?
Right.
We supply that's one of my clients was the Palm, and I would have to deliver the bread myself personally on Sunday because we don't work on Saturday, and right. We're closed because we're kosher.
Right.
And I would have to personally deliver the bread at 3:00 in the afternoon on Sunday.
You got to have it fresh, obviously, because nobody wants these stale rolls.
Well, the thing is that that was their particular requirement. Of course, that became a major problem between my wife and myself, because we couldn't go anywhere on Sunday because I had to be at the plant at 3:00 to personally hand deliver the bread rather than put it on the truck. But if you go to like all the flashback diners, that mini challah that they make, that's something
that's yours. The mini challah. Oh,
yes, the mini challahs.
Yeah.
And we're the only one that is 100% kosher. We're ROB, all right, which is like the highest rating that you can get in as being kosher. So a lot of the caterers, that in the hotels that require kosher, use us as their supplier or their baker.
My guest is Alan Levitz. Alan is a bread advisor, a bread consultant. He's somebody that.
Thank you. Don't let's not underplay my official title.
No, it's actually very interesting because you have to have a very discerning and interesting palate in order to be able to determine which bread is going to fit into this restaurant. Certainly. I mean, I've had, those the dark rolls with the onions inside.
Yes,
those are a specialty at Palm. You can't get enough of those.
Right. Well, that's one of our items.
Yeah, and I think it's important that the listening audience is aware that it's an art form. We're talking about artistry in the creation of some of these things. So, have you ever created anything for a restaurant specifically that wasn't available anywhere else?
Well, everything's available. It becomes a matter of how well you do it.
Right.
That's the. In other words, everybody makes a hamburger bun. You know what I mean? You could buy hamburger buns, that they serve in Burger King.
Right.
As compared to a brioche, egg washed. A burger bun, that makes the hamburger taste better than just a BK, burger.
A potato bun. Those are potato buns.
Right,
yeah.
Right. Well, they're not even potato buns. The ones those are just plain white bread.
We're not knocking Burger King, folks.
No, but it's McDonald's does the same.
For the discerning palate, for the people who out there who understand bread and butter and how good that can be in a restaurant when you sit down and getting ready to have your meal.
Right.
Alan Levitz is the guy that knows more about this than anybody else in the entire world at this point that I'm aware of.
At this particular point, there are other bread consultants, but not in South Florida, to my knowledge.
Yeah, well, Alan, thank you very much. This is an amazing bit of education. You kind of take it for granted when you go in. You just assume that what you're getting served is, this is what somebody came up with in the kitchen. But there's a lot more to it, all behind the scenes. And that's one of the things about people who are professional at what they do. And you're a professional bread consultant and advisor for New York bakeries. And we thank you very much for joining us on Route 64, the Road to Human Kindness. Road to Human Kindness has got a lot of bread in it. So we want to spread the word about good bread. Thank you very much, Alan. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes. Take care. How do people reach you? How do they get, if a restaurateur is listening to our program today or somebody wants to get bread from a kosher bakery and get unique items, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, they can use my email address, which is New York Bread Guy. New
York Bread Guy. I love it. At AOL.com. New York Bread Guy at AOL.com. Hey, Joey Pots and Pans and Billy Bag of Donuts. I love your story.
I will leave you with this. I don't know if you can use this. It's Tonto and the Long Ranger were on a camping trip.
Right.
In the middle of the night, Tonto wakes up the Long Ranger and says, "Look up at the sky and tell me what you see." The Long Ranger says, "As a person with great knowledge of astronomy, I see there are many stars and planets that are in the sky. As an astrologer, I also know that Jupiter is rising, so that we're no longer in the age of Aquarius. Since there are no clouds in the sky, a meteorologist would say there would be no rain tonight in the evening." And Tonto says, "You are the dumbest white person I ever met." And he says, "Well, what do you see when you look up in the sky, Tonto?" He says, "Somebody stole our tent."
Thank you, Alan, for that. Appreciate that. And the listening audience is going to enjoy that. Thank you very much for joining us on Route 664, the Road to Human Kindness, and spread those crumbs around. I know it's a crummy business, but spread the crumbs around, kiddo.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Bye.
Take care.